Okay, today we are going to practice drawing letters and buildings together in a street setting. So the letters and the buildings will look like streets. So the first thing I want you to do is to draw your street. It doesn't matter how wide your street is, but you do not want it all the way out to here. You want space on either side. So I'm going to do mine about here. And they don't have to be even. They could be different arrangements, different settings, but just again, make sure you don't go all the way to the corner. All right, so you have to do 3 buildings and 3 letters, okay? And the goal of this is to show foreground, middle ground, and background. I want some of the buildings to go above the horizon line. You can have some of the buildings go below, but you do want them to go above as well. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to draw a letter. Actually, I need to rotate this a little bit. Okay. All right. So let's start with, how about an R? Okay, so here's my R. Now, as you're doing this, your R's can look a little different. You may have different shapes. You may want them to be wider legs. All those things are up to you on how your letter looks. So this letter is front facing. I'm going to play with some letters that are laying down and on the side, just so as we're going through that, you get to see a variety of letters. But in your project, it's okay if they all face forward like this one. So step 1 is always to draw the front part that's looking at you. And now everything has to go to the vanishing point. And as you get good at this, you don't always have to bring the line fully to the vanishing point. It's more to erase. But at the same time, you always want to make sure that you are lining things up. Now we put the back of the letter. So from here, I go up. It's very important that this stays parallel. That's the most important thing. You don't want your letters to do things like this or it doesn't look right. So remember how I line it up, drag the ruler out to make it parallel. Now the inside, I'm going to say that inside, I want it to feel about the same thickness. So I'm going to go to about there. And then that means I need a vertical line that matches that little guy right there. Now, because that line went there, yes. So now it's time to erase what we don't need. Remember, it is important to erase as you go because it gets really confusing when you start to fill up your page. You start to have all these guidelines and you don't know what they're for. So it is best to erase as you go. Draw light. Make sure you're drawing light. Remember, I draw heavier so that you can see what I'm doing, but drawing light is better. All right, so let's do another letter. I'm going to do an E, and this time I'm going to have the E laying down on the ground. And because I'm going to put it in this area, it's going to feel like the middle ground, right? This is in the foreground. It's low on the paper. This will be in the middle ground. So to make an E look like it's laying down, the first thing I'm going to do is draw the bottom of the E, the part that's facing me. This is really the easiest way to do a letter on its side. So as I draw this, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to draw a box. I want to make sure that's vertical. So as I'm doing this, I'm checking my ruler to make sure it's vertical. I look at the edge of my paper, I look at the line, and those are things that help me keep it vertical. So now I'm going to draw a box going to the vanishing point. It's the easiest way to divide things up. So as I come over here, go there, go here, and my bottom right there. All right, now I'm going to decide how far my E is going to go back. I'm going to say about here. Notice how my ruler is crooked from the horizon line, and notice how I straighten it so that it's even. This line needs to be vertical. It needs to match this line. They are both vertical. And now I need to do the side of the box. So this guy needs to be vertical, I think I was saying vertical, I meant horizontal. These are vertical, these are both horizontal. All right, I'm gonna erase this to get it out of its way. Erase my excess lines, we don't want them there. All right, now it's time to break up this letter E. So a little trick that you can do is I'm gonna kind of lightly sketch in an X from corner to corner. And what this does is this line right here, where the intersection meets, that is halfway from this box, because you can't really do halfway because as it's going back in the distance, it's getting smaller. So this is a little trick. You draw an X from corner to corner, and where they intersect, now I have the actual center of this letter. So this can be where the center of my E is going to be. So I'm going to go a little bit above it, and again, see me checking that my ruler is horizontal. And I'm going to come down a little bit below it. This is vertical, this is vertical. I'm going to erase that line so you... So now that's the start of my E. And I could do that again. So now I'm going to draw this line. And remember, we have lots of working lines when it comes to perspective. So a lot of these lines I draw, I end up erasing. So that feels a little crooked. You can tell it's kind of crooked. I'm going to fix that. There we go. So this is the top. This is going to be a gap area. So I'm going to erase that part right there. And I'm going to do that again at the bottom. Horizontal. Good spot. All right, and this is a gap right there. All right, so I erase as I go. Now my letter is not quite done. You can start to see the E. We have the top of the E, the middle of the E, the bottom of the E, but it still looks a little funky, right? What needs to happen is I need to have the bottoms of the inside of the E. So I'm going to come over here. If this line is horizontal, I'm going to go to that corner and make this horizontal. I'm going to come down to this corner where that meets and make that horizontal. And now I'm not quite done, because what happens is, let me clean that line up. I can see the corner. I can see the corner of the E. So I'm going to make this vertical. I'm going to go to that corner, make it as vertical as I can, and draw a line down. Do that same thing here, draw a line down. And now I have a finished E that looks like it has fallen over. All right, now let's do, how about a K? K's can be difficult. I'm going to do a K back over in this area. So let's draw a K. I'm going to make it above the horizon line, because so far everything's been below. So I'm going to make it above the horizon line. And sometimes the best way to start a hard letter is to make a box. So I'm going to make a box. Okay, and now I can actually just draw my letter in that shape. I think I'm going to move this guy over a little bit to make it feel. So by sketching a little lighter, now when I go back, I can actually kind of clean it up a little bit with a ruler. Now make my line straight. And again, this is why I always tell you to draw light. You spend a lot of time erasing in perspective. So part of what makes a K so tricky is all the slants, right? So as I'm taking things to the vanishing point, I want to make sure that I am paying attention to the vanishing point, that things are really going there that needs to go there. So this point does not go through the letter, and look how slopey that ruler is. I have to take that corner to that vanishing point. I'm going to draw my line. The bottom slopes up because I'm going up below the horizon line, so I'm going towards it. Again, I line it up and draw that line. This little guy down here, I definitely need. So I'm going to draw a line there. I don't need this one. This point, see how the line goes through? I don't need this point because the line goes through. But I do need this point because it doesn't go through the whole letter. So there's the start of my K. Let me erase the horizon line that it's covering. And now we're going to draw the backs of the letter. So I'm going to come over here to this line, drag it out. For the back of this letter, I'm going to line up my ruler, drag it out so it's parallel. And now I can erase the excess right here. And I can do the same thing on this slant. Drag it out and erase what I don't need. All right, so for the demo, I want to do a letter that's going, you only have to do 3, but I want to do a letter that is going on the side. So I'm going to do that with a T. I think I'll do a P. So I'm going to do that with a P. So I'm going to come over here off to the side and I'm going to draw a letter. Now this is a big letter. He's in the middle ground and he's ginormous. But I'm going to draw this part. This is, it's going to look confusing at first because what I'm drawing is just the side of the letter. So if it was a block letter, it was like you're looking at it away from you. So I'm going to draw this part of the letter. Now I'm going to draw a box because it always is so much easier if you just draw the box first, because then you have your space to break it up. And this part of the wall is where the letter is going to be. So when I draw this line right here, all this is excess. I can erase it. And I'm going to erase the horizon line that's in the letter because that's going to get confusing. I can put it back if I need to. All right, now I got to turn this into a P. So if I think what a P looks like, I would say, you know, there's a part that comes down here and there's a hole in here, and I've got to turn that into the actual letter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say I wanted it to end here. So I'm going to line up this point this imaginary point that I made, and I'm going to draw that to the vanishing point. So it's very important that this goes to the vanishing point. This guy's going to the vanishing point. So see how they feel like they're going in? And now I'm going to do that same thing for the inside. The top of the hole, the bottom of the hole, bottom of the hole, and now the sides. And the sides, notice, are vertical. So I'm really making sure that it's vertical. All right. So it doesn't look quite done yet. We're not done yet. Right now what we've got is just the side of the P going to the vanishing point. We have the back of the P, but we need the bottom and the sides of the P. So what I want, let's do this because this part's easier. So we're going to do the bottom first. This is deciding how thick this is, and I'm going to stop it to about this line so that they're even. And then I'm going to come over here, line that up. And really, like I said, your letters can be any shape that you want them to be. That is your call. But they do need to be, you know, 3-dimensional and going to the same vanishing point. And I wanted you to stick to block letters, not round. Okay, so now I have my P. Still not done. We have the side going to the vanishing point. Everything facing the road goes to the vanishing point. Everything facing me is horizontal or vertical. So let's do the inside. So on the inside, this little guy is going to be horizontal. So I'm going to find my horizontal, carry it up. Because it's above the horizon line, I can see the top of that letter. Okay? But I can't see the bottom of the letter. But I can see the bottom. So this is horizontal. I can see a slither of a bottom of the P. I don't see a lot because it's so close to the horizon line, so you see just a slither. So see, I see more of the bottom up here because it's further away from the horizon line. But over in this area, it's smaller from the horizon line. And I can make this smaller if I wanted to. I could do things like add a vertical line right here and then carry this line to the vanishing point. so that it feels more like a hole. And clean that up a little bit. So you can finish it off that way. So there we go. There's a P going to the side. So the next big question is, how do I fit 3 more buildings into this tiny space? I feel like I've used up all this space, but really there's tons of space left. There's tons of space left. So my recommendation is to draw the buildings where you want them. Draw the shapes first. And I'm going to do that on high speed so the video is not as long. But I'm going to fill up all these areas. You're going to see me fill up all these areas. So let me go ahead and get started doing that. All right, I've added a lot more buildings than you needed, but I wanted to show you how you can overlap. Notice that I overlapped the K a little bit right here, so I had to erase that part of the K because that really helps kind of show that we have some layers. And in a minute, I'm going to go back and add the perspective to all of these. Okay, and again, I'm going to do that on high speed for time. But what I want you to notice is how the buildings look like they're overlapping. This R is definitely the foreground. This building is going to be behind the R, and this little building is going to be behind this building. And I'm going to be able to tell that because the bottoms, where they're starting, are telling me where they're placed in the space. So I know that this E, if I'm walking down the street, I hit the E before I hit that P. Okay, so the same thing. So let me go on high speed as I do the perspective for the buildings. All right, and there you have it. Right now what you have is all the buildings going to the vanishing point. So notice that I have fronts and sides, little areas. I could still erase the horizon line right here. But everything goes to the vanishing point. If you're on the street, it faces the street, it's going to the vanishing point. If it's facing forward, it is a vertical line or a horizontal line, unless you have a diagonal in the design. And that's what you need to do for your letters. All right.